A 700-mile journey in 3 months with a 10-day supply of food is just part of the story. Hello, I'm Nancy Perlman. On this edition of Eco News, we meet an environmental activist who will share his experiences and show us pictures of America's last intact Arctic ecosystem and describe his efforts to stop development in this special wilderness. Stay with us.
The interaction between the environment and peoples throughout the world affects the quality of life on this planet. As citizens of our community, we can participate in decisions impacting our city, state, and nation. In this series, we explore the effects of our influence on the Earth's ecosystems, as well as alternatives and solutions. This is Eco News with your host, Nancy Perlman.
My guest today is Chad Kister, coordinator of Dysart Defenders in Ohio and coordinator of the Arctic Refuge Defense Campaign to protect Alaska lands. He is author of Arctic Quest, Odyssey Through a Threatened Wilderness. Welcome, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
You have written a captivating story. I was so moved by your many experiences alone, but not really alone. You had an incredible wealth of wildlife around you and beauty. Could you describe this odyssey?
Yeah, it's truly an amazing place, the Artic National Wildlife Refuge, and I began my backpacking trip at Prudhoe Bay and backpacked into the Arctic Refuge, and I had to take a raft in order to get across the rivers. But it was quite a challenge because I could only carry about 10 days of food for the 90-day trip, and so I was dependent upon the land to provide my sustenance. And so I caught fish and ate roots and berries and greens and went hungry for long stretches.
I was surprised you didn't turn around because you had to deal with the cold to eliminate weight. You left out some important elements like a pad to sleep on.
Yes, a ground pad would have been very nice in the Arctic, definitely. But yeah, it was a challenge, and there were many times I was wondering, what in the heck did I get myself into? But truly an amazing place up there.
And to get to the true wilderness area, you actually wanted to see what oil development was like, so you went on public lands. The oil companies weren't too happy with you. They thought you were trespassing.
Right. The oil companies illegally tried to stop me from walking on public lands, and I had to get by their security and out into the wetland tundra. And what I found was tremendous numbers of oil spills. There's more than 400 oil spills a year around Prudhoe Bay. That's more than one a day. These are very toxic substances, and once they get out in the tundra, there's nothing we can do about it.
So you didn't even want to drink the water because you could see an oil film.
Right, right. I was walking through all these wetlands, and I was extremely thirsty because of, like the crew of the Mariner, with water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. But it was also polluted, and so a few times I actually had to drink tainted water and got sick.
But it was quite different when you got to the protected area, an area that is proposed for oil development, even though it's a national wildlife refuge.
Right, right. For one thing, I could catch fish, because the oil industry has destroyed the fisheries for scores of miles, and so I was very, very hungry, because that was what I was depending on for food. And once I got in the refuge, I could catch fish, the water was clean, it was a black and white, very different place in the refuge, and it's the heart of this massive ecosystem the size of California, 100 million acres, and all the caribou come to this one area to breed, and birds from all over the world, and it's just a truly amazing place. You're always surrounded by wildlife and thousands of caribou.
Were you worried about the bears?
A grizzly bear got very, very close, about 20 feet away, and I was extremely nervous. I was taking photos of him, but I had no gun or any means of protection, and luckily he smelled me and ran away, because we're their only hunters, and so if they know it's a human, they generally will stay away from us.
Now the distances are quite misleading. When you see pictures, it looks like a flat plain, perhaps with some mountain ranges or hilltops in the background, and yet that flat plain really isn't so flat. and it can be misleading how long it takes you to get to what you think is the next river.
Very much. That's one of the things you notice right away in the Arctic is it's very hard to tell perspective because there's no trees in order you can place the distance of how far something is away. And so often a mountain looks like it's just half a mile away and it can be 10 miles away. And it can really mislead you out on the open tundra.
And it looks like it's just a flat walk, but in reality, you're going through marshy wetlands, your feet are wet all the time, full of blisters. The tussocks are difficult to walk on.
Yeah, tussocks are formations about a foot high, and they're knobs of vegetation, and you can't really step on them or you twist an ankle. And you step between them, and my feet got stuck in the muck, and actually had blisters on the tops of my feet from pulling out of the muck. It is very difficult terrain to hike through.
Well, I'm ready to see some of these pictures and have you describe this area for us. Will you share with us some of those photographs that you've taken?
Certainly. This is a presentation about a 700-mile journey by foot and raft through the Artic National Wildlife Refuge. This area in northeast Alaska was originally set aside by Dwight D. Eisenhower as the Alaska Wildlife Range. It was enlarged in 1980, but the coastal plain was left in limbo, to be decided by Congress if it is to remain as wilderness or be open for oil development. The Arctic Refuge is a 100 million acre ecosystem delineated by the porcupine caribou herd that spans into Canada. From this vast range, the caribou all mass together on the 1.5 million acre coastal plain, the yellow area in the upper left of this map. The Arctic Refuge is the last entirely intact Arctic ecosystem left in North America. From their massive 100 million acre range, the size of California, the caribou migrate toward the coastal plain. The coastal plain is the heart of this ecosystem, where all the caribou from this vast smaller herds throughout their wintering ground unite together to breed, as shown here. In addition, 160 species of birds from 6 continents and all 50 states breed on the coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge. I flew into Prudhoe Bay on the northern terminal of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline to begin my journey into the Arctic Refuge. Prudhoe Bay is located west of the refuge and has been massively developed for oil. The oil industry has dredged enough gravel to fill 90,000 football fields to a height of 3 feet for the 1,000 square miles of industrial development all around Prudhoe Bay. I had to bring a raft in order to cross rivers like this, the mighty Saskatchewan River that flows through Prudhoe Bay. With my boat and gear for the summer, I had a massive load of 90 pounds. Here I am eating lunch on an island in the Saskatchewan River with the ever-present oil industrial blight in the background. The air pollution in Prudhoe Bay exceeds that of Washington, D.C. Nitrogen